Hey everyone, it's Zach here. Today I'm going to walk through an example of how I implemented Dynamic DNS in my home lab. And if any of you are like me, you may be kind of at the mercy of your ISP. So I recently kind of switched some things up, and Google Fiber is changing my IP address like pretty much daily, and it kind of happens randomly throughout the day. So when I'm leveraging services outside of the home, it kind of can become a problem. Or if I host, I have some documentation that I share and expose, well, when the DNS records aren't correct, nobody can access it. So what I wanted to do was figure out a way to dynamically update those records as I get new IP addresses. And I do have an ASUS router that I can SSH into. There are other ways this could be implemented, of course, but I wanted to try actually connecting to the router just for fun. So what I've done is giving you a quick example of basically how I detected my public IP, and in this kind of MVP solution that I'm sharing today, I'm just going to pull the router. So every 15 minutes, I'm going to check to see if anything's updated. So I'll detect it by connecting to the router and looking at an NVRAM variable. I'll then compare that to basically a variable in the host record in AAP. So I'm kind of using that as a cheap database to store like what I know the IP to be versus what is live on the router itself. And if I detect a change there, I'm actually going to go out to Cloudflare and update those DNS records. So that's really the extent of the solution. I've got the steps here laid out in this playbook. And it's pretty simple. Like I said, right, I'm running a raw command on the router itself. I parse out the IP address from the response. And then if I've detected a change, I go ahead and update my host record, right, to reflect that new IP address. And then I also update the Cloudflare DNS records. So I'm trying to really minimize kind of what I'm touching here. I don't want to be touching the Cloudflare API for no need. So that's why I'm storing that IP address within the host record. And then future state, I want to make this more event driven. I don't actually want to be pulling the router. So stay tuned, and I'll try to come up with a better solution there and leverage EDA. But in the meantime, feel free to come look at the full playbook here in the source for this post. I've got a vars file here where you can see actually how I pump in the records that I want to update if there is in fact a change. And then the last thing I'll touch on is within AP itself, the job template's important here because one, I need to tie into some credentials because I'm integrating with Cloudflare API. I'm also integrating with the AAP API itself, right? I'm updating that host record. And then of course I have a machine credential to connect to the router. And then the execution environment here, only a couple things you need to note is you need community general available as a collection, as well as the Ansible.controller collection, right? To update the host record. And then the most important piece, and the reason why I really wanted to pull this up, was you do need a schedule, right? That enables you to make this dynamic. And for me, that's every 15 minutes. But that would be basically whatever your tolerance is for, that window of time where the records may be inaccurate. And then I did want to show an example of it actually running. So I particularly picked one that happened where there was a change detected. So in this case, I got the WAN IP, I extracted it, and then you'll notice that these two tasks did run because there was a change detected. In total, it takes about 30 seconds to update all those DNS records. And then if I go to my jobs and actually look at the typical run, it takes 1 to 2 seconds, right? So that's it just checking and saying, hey, the IP hasn't changed. So I hope you found this enjoyable. It was kind of a fun thing to work through and had a material impact on my day-to-day. And I will also, publish a new video once I do get this into a more event-driven solution. So thanks for listening.